to order the October 20th, 2020 Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission regular meeting. We'll start off with a roll call. Jamie, can you do the roll call?
Yes. Chair Steenblock, Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Steenblock, Commissioner Ramseth,
Here.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Here.
Commissioner Geyer,
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
All right, next we'll look to approve the agenda, making an amendment for regular agenda item number 5A, moving that to C and moving the other two up.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda with the recommendation changes.
Second.
We're hearing a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the agenda? Hearing no discussion, we'll just take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramseth,
Aye.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer.
Aye.
All right, next on the agenda, open forum. Do we have anyone, Jamie?
We do not have any open forum submissions for tonight.
Okay, let's move on to regular agenda item A, which will be now Bay Park Equipment Color.
All right, so members of the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission, given that we had a meeting tonight, I thought I'd include you guys in some discussion and selection of the color scheme and palette for the new equipment for Bay Park. So just looking for some direction, and we can go through kind of quickly here through the there's different color palettes. We can easily, if there's one that stands out to you, but we do need to make some choices on what we would like for the colors for that park: the decks, the post, plastic pieces, railings, tables, and then the belt swings. So just wanted you guys to have this final step in the process, since it's something that we're working on. So if you have any, open up for discussion, then ultimately end with a conclusion of what colors we want for the equipment for Bay Park. So with that, if anyone has anything that stands out or any strong opinions, we'll turn it over to the commission at this time.
Just looking at them for a minute here. I can't have any green because it's too close to the green park.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of the green parks, and I think there's someone says like the blue park or the dragon park. So we want something different, and that's why I thought we could kind of look it over and see what you guys think. It is in a little residential area, so probably nothing too loud, too bright and crazy maybe. But Karen, did you have anything that caught your eye? Any certain color palette or?
Well, I'm just looking at them. I like dark blue. I also like red, but you're talking about
Jamie, how soon do we have to make this decision? Does it have to be done tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we have to send in the purchase order by the end of the month. So looking to just decide on the colors tonight.
Okay. I'm wondering if it wouldn't have been good to maybe throw a poll out. Do you think you would have gotten enough participation there?
I'm not sure possibly. Not certain with that neighborhood. But, I guess the only other thing is if we probably could wait for our special meeting. But, if there's any other commissioner thoughts before we, table it to approve it in the meeting. I just don't want to delay too much.
It's kind of a neat brown too, a neat brown or tan. They move up and down, so I can only see them.
Are you looking at the screen right now, Karen?
I am. And there's one purple, then kind of light whitish, and then kind of a brown. And there was another brown one down further that I can't see on the screen right now. There you go. Keep going. Yeah, that one right there.
Let's start with this. Well, what we do know is that the ADA swing is going to be gray. So is there, do you just want to go with the standard black swing for the belt swings? Is anyone, we're gonna have the gray.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty standard. And then if we have to get a replacement, that's easy. So we'll do that. We'll do the black. This belt swing will be black, and then we'll have a gray ADA swing. I think let's talk about picnic tables last because that's fairly easy. But again, then so really you're looking at the plastic components and then the posts and railings. The decks are like the platform that you stand on. So obviously you're gonna want a darker color.
yeah.
So if we've got gray and black, like this urban design's kind of
Like-
simple.
Yeah, that one's striking out. I mean, look, that one looks good.
Because then that would go with the belt swings and the gray ADA swing.
Yeah, the only thing, the red top, might fade quickly. I don't know what kind of fade warranty they have on those tops.
Yeah, and so let me just go flip over here. So we don't have a top on ours. So this is our design. So just kind of just to give you guys, so the decks are these what you see in brown here, and all of the metal railings. The slide is like the plastic piece. So I think just in kind of that high level, like what's the color schematic. So if we went with like that gray, let me just pull that back up here. I'm sorry, one second here. I got a lot of screens open. So, if it's like a dark gray deck with a gray slide with black posts, then let's see, what are we missing then?
Top. Oh, you don't.
If you like that kind of simple color schematic. I know we have like at Fenway Park, which is, plenty far away. We do have like some red and black there, but not very much of it. So,
The slides, a lighter color on the slides makes them cooler to slide on.
Mhm.
Because some of the dark colors get hot.
It's a good point.
yeah, so the plastic would be all kind of like these components right up here, the slide feature, and probably this panel here. And then the posts obviously are there's like 6 or 8 of those, that we put into the ground. And then any kind of railings would be, obviously these kind of components here, that the metal components.
I'm not sold into this, but how about the light tan slide and tops and then the rest dark? I don't know. If you have to go with the gray and the black, it's hard to choose another color, but Betty, you're the swingman park person.
I like the suggestion so far. I think it needs some color
Yeah.
somewhere. So wherever we can put a little color.
So what about like the railings? So if you look at this one, you got the gray slide with the black posts. And then the deck would be, whether it's dark gray or some, maybe it's like the metallic gray, some form of dark shade, but then you could do the color with some of those railings to add that color in there. So then again, going to here, so all of these components here, the railings could be that pop of color.
Okay.
If you do like the plastics and the decks more of like that gray, I think the black post would be nice, or could look nice, because then it goes with any color really.
Yep.
I'm sorry about that. But then see here, then they did all their railings a different color. So is there any colors that like to add that pop of color if we that stands out to anybody? So
I do not claim to be a designer. This one's a tough one. It's I wish we had a tool that we could build it and see it.
Right, exactly. That would
before
help.
We had to commit to it, to be honest.
Well, why don't we do this? I can check with let's get through some ideas, and then I'll see what I can do with Little Tykes to get some mock-ups, and maybe we can send it over via email, and I'll check with her on the timeline, because I know that maybe they could start the production, and I don't know that they need that color right away, but I'll have to check with her and see. We do have a special meeting slated for let me pull it up here, the end of November, and we really could look at bumping that up to if we needed to, maybe we can move that up a week or so. I don't want you to feel rushed into a decision on the color. And I want you to feel comfortable with it. So,
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of maybe getting some feedback, community feedback.
okay.
But I'm not gonna be able to make that decision. I guess do we need to make an action on that then? And go through that, or can we just table that?
Well, if we want, I would probably suggest tabling this item, then I'll talk to the company tomorrow just to see our drop dead for like getting the purchase order in. And if we need to bump up a meeting, even if it's like a week or so, just to jump on a Zoom call quick to make a final determination on this, I think that would be fine. So I'll make sure we don't miss the deadline. But then if it sounds like you're looking for a little more visual.
Well, I am, but I'm just one of us. So I'm not seeing everyone on the screen. Do we all?
Let's see.
Any other thoughts?
I'd like to drive around there again. I'm just to see the surroundings. Maybe something will pop out, but otherwise I'm not going to take, I'm not real adamant about any of them, but.
Okay.
As long as we have some color in there somewhere. I'm not married to any of them.
Doug, do you have any thoughts, comments? Do you want to see more?
I really don't have any preference on it. I think a little bit of color and a lighter slide would be good. My granddaughter's favorite color is purple, so you might want to take that into consideration.
It's not a bad color.
I don't want to overthink it, but I also want to make sure, this is going to be there for a long time, that make sure it's something that you guys are all happy with and that fits the neighborhood and something different. We have a lot of our parks do have a lot of that forest green, dark green, natural colors. So just some thoughts if you want to keep that or if you want to do something different. So if you want, there's a couple options, I guess. It's either, I guess the main option I'm kind of feeling is table it so I can see if we can get a few mock-ups with the darker gray and black posts and decks, and then a couple different color options. And then see if we have some time to put something out on Nextdoor app or Facebook to get some feedback.
Yeah, and if you could maybe
go that route, if we can manage it timeline wise.
That'd be great if we could. And then we can get
Okay.
Terry, Jason, and Tim's thoughts on it as well.
Okay, let's do that then. So just we can motion to table, and then I'll talk to the company tomorrow and just find out my drop dead deadline on that. And we may just need to do a quick meeting to jump on quick and figure that out and approve something. Is that fair with everybody?
I'm
Do we
open to that.
Do we have to have
That's
a
good.
special meeting? Couldn't you just send it out and we can just email back what we thought and you go with the majority or the best? I don't know if that
If
we
you
all have to
guys-
gather together.
It's up to you. I guess it's up to you. I don't know that we needed a consensus on it. I was thinking that we should probably have everyone kind of agree to agree to it, unless that's something that we do via email. So I'll just have to check if that's something, if we can. And I don't know, Kathy, do you know if we can do any form of like email vote on anything, or is this just a consensus thing via email? Do you have any thoughts on Robert's rules around that? Or I don't want to turn a simple thing into, too difficult of a thing.
Yeah, I'm not 100. This is not like a rocket science decision here. It's not
Right.
not a major,
Yeah.
not a major business decision. It's just deciding on a color.
Right.
I
It doesn't
think-
affect cost.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're, it's already approved. I don't think that you need to have a formal vote. I think you've talked already about potential color combinations and maybe just trying to see them visually.
Right.
And then, maybe just a couple combinations and then choose whichever one you think is best.
And
Okay.
if we don't like it, Jamie, we'll just go and repaint it. It'll be fine.
All right. So let's just,
Are you volunteering?
motion to table and resolve via email, or just to have or motion to recommend staff make final determination
Yeah,
after
that,
Parks Commission feedback.
that works.
All right.
Do someone want to make that motion?
I move that we review some colors by email, get back to Jamie, and then she will make a final decision.
I can second that motion. I think we have to include maybe table it also or not.
Well, we're not going to bring it back for action, so
Okay.
we don't need to table it. We're just going to move to review via email.
Well, then I'll second that motion as stated.
Hearing a motion and a second, any more discussion? You take a roll call vote, Jamie.
Yep. Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramseth,
Aye.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer.
I,
All right, moving on. Next item is the Magical Park subscription.
All right, so members of the Parks and Lakes Commission, included in the packet was some information about Magical Park, which is a digital app, augmented reality game that is geared towards youth, generally ages about 6 to 12. And we've talked about this previously, but we've been looking for different activities that we could offer in the community that could allow for social distancing, people to do within their household or families, kind of on their own time. And one of our items in our 10-year strategic or planning session is the use of technology. So with that, this company based out of New Zealand, I connected with them and they did set us up for a test run, which all of you are aware of, and most of you participated in the test run. I included in the packet some of the feedback that I gathered from all of the commissioners who did test this out with family or friends at the park, Summerfield Park in town. So tonight we talked about seeing if we wanted to pay for a subscription to extend this out to the community. Up until now, this has just been a test run just for city staff and commissioners, has not been made public or aware to the public that this is, an active item. So with that, we're going to look at seeing if the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission would like to move forward with a subscription. And I included the pricing piece in here. So you can do 1 week for $750. You can do a pop-up for 3 months, which is $999. And that's per park. So with that, we're going to decide tonight if that's something that we still implement for this year, and looking for discussion and approval if you do want to move forward with a subscription to the Magical Park app for this year. I will say weather may be a factor in this decision tonight. So
I have a question, Jamie.
yes.
And I know you got my feedback, but I wonder if, so the concern I had, the girls loved it. I took 3 of them, age 9, 10, and 11. They loved it. They each played 2 games. They had a great time. They gave it thumbs up. But 2 times it took the kids out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a concern. One time it was across the street,
Mm-hmm.
and another time it was into the town hall. Now I have an Android.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was but I have to assume that many people aren't going to have iPhones.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm just
no,
wondering how they would address that. That
So-
was probably my biggest concern.
Yeah, and I share that same concern. And they can set, they can readjust the parameters and
Okay.
shorten that zone. I found Summerfield Park was a good park because there's a lot of room, but maybe we would need even more space, and I originally considered Fenway Park, but then I also didn't want to be in conflict with youth athletics, football practice or what have you. But those 3 football fields would be great to have this up and running because you don't have as many perimeter issues, with streets or roads or anything like that. So, we certainly could adjust the parameters at Summerfield or consider Fenway.
I
I
like
think-
Summerfield. It was a beautiful park. And they
Yeah,
had
and
fun.
some of the feedback too, and I kind of experienced this as well, is, you played for a little bit. Like, I think it's really the 6 years and older, because some of the younger kids just wanted to do the park and the playground. So, I think, that target age it's really to kind of get, people out and moving around or get them to the park. And that's one of the benefits of that, is it gets them there. And then they see, oh, there's a park here. And then they play the game for a little while, and then they go use the playground. So it kind of gets them there and keeps them there longer. I guess with the weather and for the rest of this year, that might be not a great idea to jump into a subscription. So maybe this is something that we tested it and just have some further future conversation, maybe for in the spring, when we can evaluate it a little further with some of those items to look at.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I appreciate that, because I didn't send my comment in because it was so late. It took me 3 times to get out there and have the phone work and have it be where I could judge what we thought of it. The 2 that I took out there were 11 and 13, and they weren't impressed. They said it was kind of fun, but as you said, Jamie, they looked around, they said, I've never been to this park.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started playing at the park. And one of them, I don't know which one it was, said they thought there would be a problem because some of their friends would not have the proper phone or the proper data or whatever else they were telling me you need to do to check into this thing. And they thought that would be not fair to kids that didn't get it or couldn't get to that particular park. So they were thinking it was more of an issue of,
Accessibility.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I had a 4.5-year-old who was pretty tech savvy. And he thought that the slide was a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, Jamie, I think mine too. They played the game, then they played on the playground, then they came back and played the game again. So they it was just another bounce back and forth. But I would agree that we should wait till spring.
Yeah,
to
and that might just
revisit.
be something, maybe in the spring, it's another conversation and we find someone who's, for a week tied into an event as one of the activities to do. But it's maybe not, we start with something like that next year. In the spring, we can work through some of the additional details on the perimeters that are set up, maybe get some more feedback or do another test run in the spring with maybe a little bit more targeted audience of 6 to 12-year-olds. If, we pay for a week to see how people like it, and just and go with that in the spring. But I think weather's playing a big factor, and I think there are a few more things to work through. But augmented reality, it's kind of like the Pokemon Go. I mean, I see adults playing that every single day, out at our parks, and it's actually a really big thing that it's just nothing that I'm, involved with, but they have a lot of fun, and it gets some people walking and miles just to go find all these creatures and features and whatnot. So it's really a unique thing, and it hits a different demographic. So I think it's an interesting item. So I guess at this point, it sounds like we would a motion to not proceed with a subscription this year and reconsider next year, if that's what the group's looking for.
Yeah, I had this similar experience with my 8-year-old. He was more interested in playing Pokemon Go than this one. So,
Okay.
We can wait.
Do you want to make a motion, Karen?
Pardon me?
Were you making a motion?
Oh, yeah, I can make a motion that we put that particular idea on hold till the spring and do some more investigating as far as creating it for our parks, as far as the boundaries are concerned, and also give us time to consider how in the world we're going to get this information out to the people, because once it's out, it's expensive to have there. And so we'd want to do a real promotional piece that it's coming and how to use it and all of that. But that's a long motion. I guess I can just make the motion that we wait till spring.
I needed a little humor today, Karen. Thank you for that.
I'll second the shorter motion.
Okay.
Hearing a motion in a second, any more discussion? Or we can do a roll call vote, Jamie?
I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramseth,
Aye.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer.
Aye.
All right.
All right, it looks like we have our guest here, so we can move to item C on the regular agenda. Is that right, Jamie? Proposal for
Yep,
Shield Lake?
that's correct. So we have Donovan Hart, our zoning administrator here with the City of Forest Lake, and a guest, Glenn Bergman. And I'm going to turn this over to Donovan. He's going to walk through this agenda item regarding a proposal for Lake park sale or park exchange. So with that, Donovan, take the floor.
Thank you, Jamie. I'd like to
You're welcome.
present the proposal from a local resident, and I am unable to do a. Let me try again. Difficulty sharing the screen here.
Me to put up the packet materials, Donovan? Just
I want to do a location first.
Okay.
And I have 3 screens open and it's not giving me. Okay. So this is a property that Parks, Lakes, and Trails commissioners may not know is actually a city park. And this is Shields Lake here. And 1983, there was parkland dedicated. I estimate it's about 3.5 acres of high ground. It's shown here, right off 208th Street. That's the Green Valley subdivision there to the west. And so these 2 boxes are actually owned by the city as dedicated parkland. There is a 66-foot wide easement that comes from the west along this, what's now a private driveway, but this is a actual public easement to reach this this park area. And it's undeveloped, it's vacant. Of course, the road is undeveloped. It's something like a Jeep trail. Jamie and I did a field trip there once and saw a lot of trees. Not a lot of distinguishing features to this. Here's another easier way to look at that dedicated park area. And currently, there's a new owner for this parcel. I believe it's 51 acres. And the new owner, who's represented by Glenn Bergman, who's on the call, seeks to, the proposal is to sell this property to the city. And then the reason to vacate this easement shown here, since it would no longer serve a public use to reach this public land. And so that's the proposal. And this is really the first step, because sale of public land to anyone requires a series of official actions and through council. But it being parkland, I wanted to gain a recommendation from you commissioners on what would you like to see. Should this land be sold or not? When I went out to the property just recently, what I saw was this. Can you still see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We can
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, I'm not even sure exactly that's the parkland, there's no boundary markers for that. But you get the idea. In the summer, I think it's wetter. It looked a little bit dry there, but I don't think that's permanent high upland. Mr. Bergman's proposal does indicate it's wetlands, and I think that's probably not far off. I think it's safe to say. Also, I went to another section here. Okay, if you look at the this parcel also has a little section that's just south of the Shields Lake Park. There's a city park there in the eastern shore of Shields Lake. There's a pier there, there's a bench, and a little parking area. And it's actually that little corner is actually discontiguous from the main parcel owned by the Palombos. And, when I look at that and thinking perhaps, it'd be more favorable to do a swap. It would be, the city would give up this land, this wetland, which is not so useful, for a smaller area. It's area meaning it's high ground, but smaller geographic area. And I believe the owner could get what they want, which is not to have this park that's, on the, to the west and north of their property and this easement area. But then the city could gain some more shoreline. Looking at it, again, this is just a quick shot. You can see the boundary marker. I'm standing in the park looking southward. You can see it's treed. You can see a little bit of shore there. But that is, and I did check with the city attorney, and there's no legal obstacles to actually, selling or swapping this parkland. Which sometimes there is with parklands that need to have that public park use as part, or else they need to be returned to the original owner. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions from commissioners.
Donovan, what are we looking for a motion tonight for? What kind of action are you looking for in this one tonight?
I'd look for a recommendation from commissioners on this proposal. And the proposal is to sell for the city to sell the property. I don't think there'd be much cash involved. It's not useful, and that's something that I don't think that's undisputed. So I don't think they would gain much of a cash price. I think the real value would come if the land was swapped, and some eastern Shields Lake shoreline was obtained. And then of course the owner gets what they want, and the city also gets something that they could use.
I'm sorry, did I see where that shoreline was?
Yeah, I can show it again.
Can you kind
It
of
was-
outline Shield Lakes Park too? It must be right next to it.
Yeah, so this Shields Lake Park is right here. Here's Imperial as it comes down and does that elbow turn.
Not see.
So Shields Park,
There it
can you
is.
see, is that close enough? I can
Mhm.
zero
Yeah,
in.
no, yep, I've got it now.
Yeah, so I didn't check the area. I could give you a kind of some quick dimensions there. Just rough dimensions.
My main issue was my screen was covering it, seeing you all,
Oh.
the red marker on that before.
Yeah, so it's around 200 feet of shoreline along there, roughly.
And there's access right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's actually there's small trails, that people walk or have just informally use.
Sure.
You can
Well,
go in
I
there,
think
you can
we
see
get-
those.
To get more trails any way we can.
Well, my opinion would be we get land rather than the money. And if does it absolutely touch Shields Lake Park, there's no land in between that Shields Lake Park and the access that we'd be given, that extra shoreline.
Yeah, there's no, this here's the boundary line right here. So I'm standing in the park right by the aerator, electrical box.
Okay.
They've been there. Right, there's a bench, like the Rotary
Yep, we
donated it.
did.
Yeah. So they are contiguous.
Because I think we've been talking at different times of kind of getting that and clearing it, making it a little even better than it is. Because to make it more usable or something, but I that would be my vote or my recommendation.
And
Jamie, I assume
Karen,
this goes right, our recommendation goes to the council.
Correct. And then they're the ones who make the decision. I think for the sale of public land, I think the EDA might be involved. I mean, there's a whole process, and
Yeah.
but I think this would be the first step, since it does relate to parkland.
I will, oh, Doug, you're muted.
I think it makes sense if we can expand the Shields Lake Park with additional shoreline access, then perhaps another fishing pier
Mhm.
or picnic area could be added. How deep is that little portion? How many feet back from the lake in its deepest part does it go?
You're saying the actual park, or
No,
the
piece that
little
we're-
triangle that I showed?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's about around about 110 feet.
Really? Okay. So that seems to me to be a reasonable size that you can do something with.
So are we talking about a straight out swap? Is that the question?
That's my idea, right? I mean, I don't think that you know, if we, I mean, I guess it'd be possible to you know, I don't think, given the price of, you know, 3.3 acres of wetlands, I'm not sure if there's, I mean, I think we'd be getting a real gain. The city would be getting a real gain with that, and I think the owner would also be getting a gain. It seems to me like it's an equal
Okay.
value.
Is that a separate piece of property that has a tax valuation on it?
No.
No. Okay.
Can I interject briefly?
Please do.
Obviously, there's a disparity between the size of the parcel that is the park or the mosquito reserve or whatever you want to characterize it as. But it's 200 feet of shoreline that has enough depth to access it versus a parcel many times bigger, which if you check the FEMA maps, it's entirely wetland. And to do anything with it, if you could do anything with it, given the status of the wetlands, the cost of getting access into it, and then trying to, you know, if you did it, you could put a picnic table, but it would have to be on pontoons. It's really unusable land. I have nothing but respect for the developer who negotiated this parkland dedication many years ago. From my client's perspective, it verges on a public nuisance because you've got a piece of property that is not being used by the city, that probably never will be used by the city, that is very difficult. It would be the M&M parcel, mosquitoes and mischief. I mean, and to get to it, you've got an easement that's under the control of the city, but it's undeveloped and it's fairly long. So there's access issues, there's use issues. My client basically would like to eliminate a nuisance where you've got uncontrolled public access to a piece of undeveloped property kind of in the middle of his parcel. And for that, he's got a piece of property that is usable, that to get to it, he's got to come up around from the north from the park. So he sees it as kind of a win-win to eliminate a problem for him and basically add some value to the park for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
I was just gonna chime in as well. Recent conversation around Shields Lake Park with Public Works and the Forest Lake Comfort Lake Watershed District. These are some pictures. I'm just gonna show a couple. just to talk through. I don't know if they'll help kind of visualize the, what we're talking about here, but we were out there, I think it was last fall, and talked about, we needed an aerator. So that was just recently installed. So this is Shields Lake Park. These are just a few pictures I took that day. You can see that the dock, or our little fishing dock here, is kind of underwater. This was a picnic table that's, we have this table there. Obviously it's a little outdated, but I think the parcel we're looking at would be over here, kind of in that wooded area. Is that right, Donovan? I think that
Correct.
the boundaries right here.
Don't look like
So
it.
it would be the shoreline extending 200 feet kind of right along here, if that helps at all. We'd have some, if we wanted to add, we maybe have to clear a little area. But then this was in the middle of Shields Lake Park previously. So this was last year. Was the electrical panel and these big bushes. So Donovan, I know you just went out there. This electrical panel is removed now, correct? And there's one more near the property line.
Yeah. And so this, unfortunately, if this swap occurred, it again would be not at the edge of the property. Right now it is. They were finished installing it when I was out there last week. But no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, so the reason I'm showing this is our conversation and with Public Works, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, is because this big electrical panel right now in the middle of Shields Lake Park has been relocated with a new aerator, that leaves, we talked about, we could take this big bush out of here, and that really opens up the space at Shields Lake Park. We could put in maybe a little, eventually a little picnic shelter. It makes the park open a little bit more so that, it's a little more inviting. Right now it's kind of tucked away and hidden. So we have had conversations between, myself and Public Works and the watershed district on doing some pretty low cost, but effective improvements to Shields Lake Park. And that's something that we can talk about for next 2021 here. So just wanted to give you kind of up to speed, or make sure you're aware that Shields Lake Park is a park that we could make some nice improvements to next year within our operating budget for 2021. So it's something that we can do while we're working on all of our 10-year plans, if that makes sense. So just wanted to show you a couple pictures, at least commissioners who, maybe haven't been over here before, but here's the access point. So you can bring your boat down, and let's see if I have a couple more. There's a parking lot. So we talk, this is something simple. We could, make this a little nicer if we improve the park. There is plans, the Forest Lake Watershed District, to look at getting a new fishing dock here, and maybe it's even expanded out even more. So a lot of opportunity, and I just thought I'd share that if you weren't aware, but that is something that the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission, we could do some Shields Lake Park improvements next year.
I'm very aware of that park because Rotary did have a big hand in cleaning it up and putting the pier out and whatever. And it's kind of a hidden gem that a lot of people didn't know. And if you're a fisherman like Alan Bakke, you'll know that there were, I don't know if there still are, but there were very large sunnies out there. So it was a very fun place for kids to go. So any kind of an addition to the shoreline that we could do something, I just think it's a win-win. And I came from a world where we were never allowed to sell any kind of park property that was once designated park property. So we would eliminate all of the inner workings too that we would have to go through, or the city would have to go through to make that happen. But I'm excited because I always did like Shields Park. We had a really, really good sign out there. It was so beautiful, and it got wrecked, cut right in half. So now it isn't such a pretty sign, but there is one, but very few people know about that park.
Yeah. You're right, Karen. And I think with some of these simple improvements, some shoreline restoration with our current property, improvements to the dock or fishing pier, maybe some parking lots, some new updated benches, it's obviously pretty shaded, but I think within our operating budget next year, we could really make some nice improvements, and then it's something that we can be proud of to promote to the public and get more word out there, and maybe people will start using that more. So just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page or aware of that opportunity.
But the pictures you showed us is the property we would be giving away.
No, that was Shields Lake Park. We would be gaining more
Right.
line to that.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
would
we
be
were
able
out there
to-
last year for park cleanup.
Yes.
Okay.
So we would have 200 feet additional on the shoreline to work with for lake access.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't following.
Do we have anyone that would like to make a motion?
Are we gonna make, what would the motion be? A recommendation or what can we do? I'm really excited about the opportunity, but I don't know how, I think, don't we just recommend to the city or how, what is the next step?
Yeah, it would be to accept staff recommendation to make the land swap.
And you're right, Karen, it would be a recommendation for city council to consider that. That's the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission recommendation, is to consider the land swap as proposed per the staff recommendation.
I'd be glad to make the motion, but I don't want to make them all, so I stand in case anyone else wants to make the motion. Otherwise, I certainly will.
Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. I make the motion that the recommendation from Parks, Lakes and Trails is to recommend the swap of properties.
I'll second that.
All right, hearing a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? I think I'm just gonna say one brief thing. I would like, I'd like to not hang this up here on this level, but I would hope that we have maybe a little better understanding going into council what the overall land swap is like, and maybe some sort of value, estimation. But that's all, I guess, for the added discussion on my end. So we have a motion and a second. Could we do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramseth,
Aye.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer.
Aye.
All right, hearing that one is approved, and we can move on to, let me find my agenda here. Discussion item A, 2021 park fees.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you, Mr. Bergman.
Good
Yep.
luck.
All right. All right, so 2021 park fees. So included in your packet tonight are 2020 fees for Parks, Trails and Lakes commission fees for within our city code. I'll bring this up on the screen share. It's a little easier to navigate that way. All right, there we go. So as you guys are aware, every year the city council has to adopt a new fee schedule for the upcoming year. And so each department looks at their fees, and it's their opportunity to make any adjustments to the current fee schedule or to recommend changes. And this year is different, and we're just bringing this to discussion tonight so it can give me some direction. But we do have some new fees that we're going to need to look at and include any fees associated with the senior center and our field rental process. Unfortunately, just with the recent changeover, we're just starting to look at those fees specifically. So tonight, looking for discussion primarily on our current 2020 fees. We have arts in the park fees, park rental fees, and I would suspect our field rental and rink rental fees are gonna change and come back, in November. But just looking for some commission feedback on, are you comfortable with rates? It's been about 2 years since we've increased rates. Is this something that what direction or what additional information do you want to see? Do you want a market analysis on what other communities are charging for fees? We need to see if we're going to keep these as is, or if we're going to implement any increases or changes to our fee structure. So the next week or two, I'll be working hard on all of our fee structure so I can bring it back for approval. So just really any discussion or thoughts on our fees that we currently have. One thing I did want to mention for discussion as well, last night in our workshop with City Council, there was some conversation around when we set field fees, how do we address residents versus non-residents? And is there, obviously you can do scheduling priorities, but from a fee standpoint, what's the commission's feedback or input on, for field use? Do you want to see resident or non-resident rates as you consider that? So just looking for some guidance. And then again, this, as mentioned here, will come back in early November for approval, and then we'll go to city council for adoption. So looking for any open conversation, direction, opportunity to discuss tonight.
Well, I think in our discussion last night, am I on? Yes.
You're on.
In our discussion last night, we talked about having a non-resident fee. And I think that some small adjustment for non-residents seems appropriate to show that our residents get something extra for their tax dollars. They're paying for the use of the field in their tax dollars, and then we're charging them additional to use it. So I would think it's appropriate to charge non-residents something in addition.
I agree wholeheartedly, Doug. It's a good way of looking at it, and not to just, jack it up so high that we don't have anyone coming from
Right.
outside. But like you say, just a little token of something because they have put it on their tax dollars.
That's good feedback. My follow-up question for you, Doug, would be, I think previously when we set our 2020 fees, when we looked at our park rentals, so the park shelters and the gazebo, we did talk briefly about the resident, non-resident, and we decided to not have something different. Do you think we should, or, commission, should we look at implementing a resident, non-resident rate for all our park rentals? So the gazebo and shelters. And the reason I bring this up is I do know that two things. One, a lot of communities do have a resident and non-resident fee structure for renting out facilities. And secondly, I do know we get quite a few, if I had to guess, we probably have about half of our reservations are non-residents coming in from other communities to use our gazebo or picnic shelters. So if the feedback is, let's look at resident, non-resident rates for fields, what's the commission's direction on our other rental facilities?
Well, this is Doug again. I don't see why we wouldn't have a non-resident fee schedule for all of the things that we rent to the public.
And I agree with that as well.
And Jamie, what's typically that difference? Is it like 5% or?
Yeah,
know.
it's not, I don't know it's a certain percentage. I think it's generally, it's not as significant, but it's enough to show that you're a resident and you're maybe $15 an hour and maybe your non-resident is $25 per hour.
Okay.
It's not a significant increase, but it's just enough, I think, that shows that residents, you're getting a deal on this because you are already paying taxes in the community. So
Yeah, and I think it's important not to make it so high that it would discourage people from coming here, because we want
Right.
people to come to our community. So keeping it to me, a nominal fee addition.
Yeah, that seems fair.
I agree.
I agree.
yeah, that's good. That's good feedback. I feel like the park rentals, if we look at that middle section there, the gazebo rental last year, we switched to a half-day rental, which was up to 4 hours, and the full day is anything beyond that. I think that went really well. You see a lot of groups just wanting, a get together for 2, 3, 4 hours. So that worked really well. And I feel like the price that we have things listed here has been well received, or we're having a good amount of reservations. So every weekend's been pretty full. So maybe this is a good, look at this as the resident rate, and then maybe a slight increase from here for non-residents.
That would be good.
Just as,
Good.
some thought. I feel like we've kind of gotten to a point where it's, it's not too expensive that people are reserving the facilities at these rates. And then maybe there's just if we want to do the non-resident rate, we just take this and consider adding on $5 or $10 for each item.
Yeah, that seems like that would work.
I'll pull up some given this conversation, I'll look at some of the non-resident, resident rate options in other comparable communities, and can bring that forward as well. But I just wanted to, that's good feedback. And I think it does make sense to consider that moving forward across all facilities that we rent out. Any comments or discussions, Arts in the Park?
I think, I mean, with the food trucks and everything else, we really didn't have anything to compare to. I mean, is there going to be any added costs on our end due to COVID for precautions? Do we even know that yet for next year, where we'd want to increase at all, or?
Excuse me.
Yeah, well, I would say comparatively, our rates are still relatively low compared to other communities, and I can share that information over email with you. It's been a bit since I've pulled a full analysis of what everyone's charging, this year. The only impact I see with COVID is if we're still in, let's say we're planning Arts in the Park and we're in our current status with COVID right now.
Yeah.
We would likely have to reduce the number of vendors we have just to allow for a little more space in the park. So we could lose some revenue by not having a full park of vendors. And if it's normally 60, maybe we'll have 45 or 40. So it's hard to really gauge how many vendors we'll have. That's the only really impact I see, is maybe reducing the number of vendors we're allowed to have, so we can spread everything out a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think it'd be okay to do a very small increase here. Maybe bump up the full season to $100 for commercial, and farmers market, $75 is still, I mean, it's 12 weeks, 13 weeks sometimes. So, it's only $7 a night, or, it's not a significant
Sure.
investment.
Well, you don't want to do something, in my view, that is going to result in fewer food trucks or fewer farmers marketeers.
Mhm.
The more you have, really, the better draw that you have. So I would think we should be careful in not pricing anybody out or making us less competitive.
Right.
Yeah, and
they
being
work
that a lot of them haven't had a season with us anyways this past year, food truck wise and whatnot, that'd be like, increasing them twice. Did we just increase those last year?
It's been, I believe, 2 years since we increased.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
do know it's also a difficult year if we're still experiencing COVID-19, and if some of these vendors didn't get to participate this year, and some of these vendors rely on this income as it's really important to them. So is it a good year to raise rates? Maybe not, and just
Yeah.
status quo and get through another year before we consider any rate increases for vendors. If a lot of them missed a lot of their vending opportunities this year, and so that's just something to consider as well with COVID.
Well, I'd be in favor of holding our fees for 2021 the same as 2020 for the reasons you stated. It's been a tough year.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I agree.
Not like it's bringing us tons of revenue. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
so,
They do a lot of hard work for them to create
Yeah.
a product for us to.
yeah.
Okay, no, that's really helpful. So that basically what you guys will see in November, what's here on the screen, we'll keep that the same. The only thing I'm going to look at additional for these current fees will be park rentals, resident versus non-resident rate. We're interested in these rates shown here as the resident rates, and then implement a slight difference for non-resident rates. Does that seem accurate? With what
Yes.
you see?
Yep.
And then additionally, the biggest piece, and honestly, just need some time to really understand what all the fees are. The Forest Lake Senior Center that we'll be working with the Forest Lake Seniors Board on. They do room rentals. They have member fees. I don't even know the list of all the fees that we have that we'll likely need to include in our city's fee schedule. So Kathy, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or if it's just for between now and the next week or two, figure out what those are and bring them back for consideration.
Yeah, I'm not real sure what their hourly rate is either. I think there was some variability with somebody that was just utilizing the space versus somebody that was providing a service. So for example, they had foot care in there. And that was providing a service to the senior members. And I believe, you know, if there was a fee charged to that individual, it was nominal. But then, you know, if somebody was going to rent the space for a baby shower, for example, you know, that would be, you know, obviously probably full rate, whatever that is. So I know it was, I believe it was an hourly rate. I would just like to say, as a council member, as I'm listening to you and thinking about the resident versus non-resident, I'd really like to understand when this comes before us and you have a proposal, you know, how you arrived at those figures. What are other communities doing that, you know, how are they differentiating resident versus non-resident? Is it a percentage? Is it just a flat dollar amount? How do they arrive at that? You know, just so that we're comparable. I just, you know, we have residents that pay a lot of taxes in this community. And, you know, if we're charging a non-resident a fee that's $5 more than the resident, I mean, somehow that just doesn't feel right to me. So and of course it depends upon what it is, but, but I would really like to see a compare and contrast, I think, with comparable communities, just to see how they're doing that. I also hear you know, the commission thinking about holding fees, which I think is really smart. I think it's also a great marketing opportunity to indicate that you're holding fees, right? They'll be the same as 2020. And, you know, because a lot of folks would probably anticipate some level of increase. And I just think that's a real great promotional opportunity.
Thank you. So made notes on that and can certainly provide the comparisons with other communities and determine if it's just a flat rate or the percentage base, so we're comparable with others. And so I'll work through the Forest Lake Senior Center piece to that because it's all very new to myself. It's just been a couple weeks since we've been a little more involved. So I'll work through that, but just so the Parks Commission knows that we'll be looking at the Forest Lake Senior Center fee structure. That's going to be new. And then the biggest section that I think additionally that will change is that bottom section on the field and rink rentals. Again, just we have different quality fields. So we have the fields out at Fenway Park. We've got the 3 fields. We've got other fields out at Schilling and Cooling Camp and Belts Park. So a little more complexity with that, given some of the changes on field scheduling. So that's just going to look different. And again, that resident, non-resident rate. So this just came from a meeting end of last week. So just again, need some time to really get that research done. But just so you guys know that we'll be looking at expanding out that field rental. And generally what you see in other communities, if you pay a little bit more, obviously, for the nicer fields, or there's a cost in the fee structure if you want your field prepared for a game, that would be a fee. So that will come forward. Just wanted some direction and comment, see if there's any other comments or feedback so I can move forward with this efficiently and get you guys what you need to make the final decisions on this.
Jenny, go ahead. I was just going to comment that last night, first of all, you and Terry did an outstanding job of presenting. And I think I've only missed one meeting and one maybe short special meeting, but it seemed like I missed an awful lot. And so I was trying to take it all in and have some questions, as I shared last night, that the FLA organization has been an organization that is very different from other communities and has been very generous. I don't think we give the ship away for them, but I also think that we have to work with them and we have to have them walk away thinking that the city appreciates what they've given in the past and will continue to give, and that we're not just going to slam them and say, we know better. That's my only thought on it.
No, thank you. And that message was conveyed, that as we set the fee schedule, that was the next question for them, or what are the fees? And again, we made sure they're going to be at the table with this conversation so that they're equitable and that the fees are fair. So, I think that's really important for the city to make sure that we're working together with law. We know that they are working on their budgets right now. And this is the intent of this, isn't to, charge, significant dollars to any organization. It's really just to streamline the process. And really just the goal is to, hit that, look at what's a fair amount and comparable to other communities. So we'll make sure that we're continuing those conversations. And I know that they have a FLAW board meeting yet this evening that I know our city administrator will be attending, and we'll just continue that process with FLAW at the table as well, giving them the priority scheduling and involvement in the setting of the fees.
So we look at them as not a FLAW organization that's making millions of dollars or even hundreds of dollars, but we're looking at that organization as parents of children that are using the fields. And I think if we keep that in mind and we look at that more of a community thing than a FLAW thing, sometimes they get all lost in that FLAW, like it's really going to be making money for themselves. And I've never worked with a more hardworking, giving group of people. So.
Understood. And I think, and we'll be working on that with them here shortly, yet this week and into next week. And those fees looked at.
I would like to second Karen's comments about last night's meeting. I thought you did an excellent job, Jamie, in preparing for the meeting and presenting. And I thought that Terry did a terrific job as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Jamie, one other thing I want to point out on here is I know that you do call out nonprofit in the Arts in the Parks booth fees. Is that a consideration elsewhere as well? So, just kind of for consistency purposes, I'm not sure. I'm indifferent to what you decide to do there. Just noted it and just wondered if it was, something that needed to be considered in the other categories. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can certainly look at that. And I think, the consistency is going to be important across the board of if we're going to have that, is it applicable somewhere else? So I'll make note of that and check on that as we move forward with determining fees. Any other thoughts on the fees or any other feedback, information you'd like to see? I'll be spending a lot of time on this in the next couple days here. There is a timeline that we have to align with city council. So again, just given the new components with the senior center and the athletic facilities, this will be top priority to get this finalized and presented to you guys again. We're going to do a quick special meeting to approve the fee schedule, which I have noted on our agenda. And then this will go to city council. So if you think of anything else, just let me know, but this is helpful direction and discussion.
We're going to be very busy, Jamie. I can see that there's a lot to that taking over these other items. So good luck.
Just
we look
send me a lot of coffee. A lot of coffee.
Move on to ice rinks and warming house.
Yes, I didn't present any packet materials. This is just a quick discussion tonight. We have winter actually appears to be earlier than we'd like to see it. But just in light of COVID-19, I just wanted to at least get some initial feedback or input from the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission regarding our ice rinks and warming house. I think, every year we do our pleasure skating rink at Belts Park, and we do the 2 rinks at Tower Park. Obviously, I think they're outdoor events. You can play within your household. You can play in small groups and social distance. So I think the act of like skating or playing hockey is fine. What I'm interested in is, we have Oaks Park, a very small warming house, where we usually have one staff on site, and then the warming house. And the warming house at Tower Park's a little bit bigger, but it's still a very, small space. So I just don't know with COVID if it's safe to open that, or if we do, what limitations or restrictions do we have for capacity? Do we keep it simple and not open them this year? I'm just, I don't have the answer yet. And I'm just starting to think about that amongst everything else. That just wanted to get some input with Parks Commission, and note that we do have we hire staff for this part-time seasonal, and they mostly work on the weekends from about noon to 6. And the rinks at Tower have been pretty busy. You get quite a few people in there. Same with Belts, I would say with COVID, you kind of have to think in this COVID world differently. People are going to be looking to get outdoors this year. So we could anticipate even higher use at our rinks, which is more people potentially in and out of the warming house. So just want to think ahead, because I would need to start hiring and staffing, and want your input on this.
Well, I think if we can do it safely, I would like to see it, done. I'd like to see it open. I don't know the answer to that right now, but I think that we should certainly do our diligence to figure out if there is a way we can. That's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Mhm.
Without the warming house, you probably will lose a lot of participants, because it's hard to put your skates on unless we make some kind of arrangement outside. I don't know, are there possibility of some kind of heaters outside that could be used, but that creates another expense?
Yeah, good point, definitely. At Tower Park, we have some benches outside, but it's cold, on those really cold days, it's just, you're cold while you're changing out into your skates. Tower Park, there's really no seating. One thing about our warming houses is our budget was cut years ago, so the hours of operating it are really only the weekends from noon to 6. So there's a lot of times people go use the rinks and the warming house isn't staffed and open. So I think people just sit in their car at Belts Park and change out into their skates. I don't know, we could look at outdoor heaters. I think to Tim's point, if we looked at keeping them open, we would probably have to look at what some restrictions would be, whether it's one family. Belts Park is small, so maybe it's one family at a time, or capacity of 5 people, or whatever that number. I don't have the answer either right now, but I think we could look at something like that. And then obviously when they're staffed and open, there's somebody there to kind of enforce and regulate that. But we are investing the dollars to hire staff, and would have some restrictions on capacity, is what I'm thinking, just as we, consider it.
You're putting your staff at risk as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm the optimist in the crowd always, because I think by that time we're going to have possibility of having more openness. And I do think with a lot of work, we can create a safe area for however we do it inside. And outside when they're skating, it's a different story. So it would be just the warming house situation. And being I live so close to Belts, I've seen many times cars sitting up there and it's not open, and so they're putting on their skates. So I think if that would be the opportunity, they'd have to do on the other days. But we go into all sorts of places safe. The stores are making us as safe as we can. And I would hate to see our young people not have an opportunity to get out and get some fresh air and movement.
Yeah, and we're not talking about not doing the rinks themselves, are we? Is the question really around the warming houses?
The warming house,
Okay,
yeah. Rinks will be open, and I think they're, as you kind of shift again to that COVID world, I didn't expect our parks to be as busy. I mean, our parks were really busy this year. I feel like people are going to be out looking for outdoor activities. So, you could expect a lot of people, and then just the fact with the warming houses, so small and an indoor space, you know, you really want to think about, if we keep them open, what do we need to do that safely?
Okay.
So just wanted some discussion around it, because as we are starting to prepare for that season, whether we're ready or not, just want to think about that in the light of the situation we're living in right now. So, and Terry, for joining us, we are just talking about the warming house discussion, if we keep them open this year or not, and if we do, what, you know, how do we do that safely with COVID? Any other thoughts? So Commissioner Miller would like to see them open if we can do it safely.
I agree.
Doug and Betty, I think everyone kind of agrees, try to keep them open. And just
Yes.
restrictions we might need to have in place.
Yes, yes.
All right. Carrie, anything else from you?
I agree.
Okay. All right.
All right, should we move on to discussion C, 10-year plan, next steps?
Yes, Terry, you missed, let's see here. You missed some accolades from your fellow commissioners for a job well done last night. So thank you for leading the 10-year vision session. You did a great job with that. So thank you, Terry. And with that, I know Terry and I briefly had talked about the next steps, and I haven't had a lot of time to digest from last night till today, but there were some, you all were there, and there were some items from City Council as action items. Some things to look at regarding the Aqua building and how a private public model would work in other communities. I didn't have a lot of time to really digest it all. Feels like it was, we just had that. So, but there were some steps from City Council. And then Terry and I talked about scheduling a couple workshops so we can really dig through the takeaways and really start packaging up the final plan of what it is we want to do with some dollar amounts associated with that. So, so I guess tonight just discuss, you know, anything from the workshop last night that stood out to you, anything that you had questions on, and just develop a plan for our next steps. Terry, if you want to add anything, I know you want to get some workshops scheduled, and I think we need to as well. I just think for me, the next step is really, it'd be helpful for me to identify a timeline to work on this, because the next couple months are going to be pretty busy just trying to get through the transition with Senior Center and the Athletic Association and the field rentals. So I'd like to see if we can kind of all talk about what that timeline and expectations are for continuing this plan forward. So
Is
with
it-
that,
Is it us driving that, or is it the council that needs information at a certain time?
well, I don't know yet. I don't have direction on the
Okay.
timeline. I know that it's gonna take time. So I think part of the conversation last night is some of the council members felt like we're ready to go, and it's gonna take time to get through this process. So understanding kind of where we're at and what's the reality, like, is it a 1-year timeline to, you know, present the plan, or, you know, I don't have the answers either yet, but just, I know we want to keep some of this momentum going to figure out what it is we're going to package up and present to council. So I think that that's the biggest piece to figure out and discuss tonight, is what pace do we go at, and what are some of the next benchmarks that we need to set? Because I feel
Oh,
it's
sorry.
going to take longer than we really think it is. You know, it's going to take some time to dig into this.
Jamie, if I could jump in with just
Yeah.
with a potential suggestion here. I think just align with council's budget season, which typically, you know, kind of kicks. I mean, we start having some sort of preliminary discussions a little bit very late July, but August is when we really, you know, really when we start hitting it hard. So, you know, maybe align your work, you know, to that deadline. You know, maybe shoot for you know, like an early July presentation or mid-July presentation to council so that it's on our radar as we head into budget season. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I know talking with city administrator, Patrick Casey, you know, the city is going to continue to move forward with the 10-year plan. And he recognizes along with council that we need a little more time in parks to figure out this package of our vision and what that's going to cost. So the timeline on the 10-year financial plan with the city, that's going to continue to happen. And when we are ready with our components to that, that can be amended and our park work can be added into the 10-year financial plan. So we aren't in a like extremely huge rush with that. I don't want to say it's not super urgent, but also I don't want to not continue working on this. So we can amend that at any time. And then Kathy, that's a good point for if there's any, especially if there's any considerations for next year that we'll want to align that with the 2022 budget requests.
That's what I was going to ask as well, is could we work backwards from that date? I was going to suggest the same thing, as if our end date is to get something by, let's say, July 1st. I don't just arbitrarily figure that out. If our end date is that, then working backwards from there, what are some milestone dates we need? And I think just looking at the trail connectivity and stuff, I think that's going to take a couple workshops just to flush out that piece alone. Some of the other things may be easier. We could do a little work offline, like you know, drafting a policy on sponsorship, for example, or some of that we could do simultaneously, where one of us or two of us or one of our sub teams could take drafting a policy, and it's a little easier. But I was hoping, you know, if our goal is July, it's really not that far away if you think about the work we have to do. And I don't want to wait too long where, you know, July comes and we're still silent in our budget ask. I don't think would be good.
Right. I agree with that. And it sounds far off, but it's here before you know it. I mean, that's why I think we need to keep some momentum going, but be realistic in the current temporary current work situation with a couple of big system, you know, changes with our facilities that we got to work through yet in the next month or two. So I think, Terry, would you like to try to still have like a December workshop? Would that be?
Well, I was hoping we could at least maybe pick one of the initiatives and start working on it in December, because December is usually kind of a quieter month. Because, you know, it just traditionally is. So could we leverage some of that quiet time with in between holidays to at least start it? And I guess my question is, do we start with the most complex one and work our way from there? Or, you know, because I think using the trails as an example, we're going to have to identify the trail. We're going to have to identify where we want it, you know, what that trail is, where the connections are, what we think it would cost.
Yeah, I think December feels good to have a workshop session. I know generally our agendas, and as you can tell, they're getting, you know, less and less to have on them as we conclude this year for parks. I don't suspect if we can have our one special meeting to approve the park fees for 2021, which will be fairly quick, hopefully. And then if we keep our regular meeting for Tuesday, November 17th, and if we try to wrap up any business for that meeting, then that can maybe clear for the year, I should say, at that meeting. Maybe that'll clear our calendar then for any additional work in 2020 for just workshop on our vision, if we don't have any business to address in December. And then that would give us December to pick one of the items to work on.
And I would add, as the weather gets nicer, Ryan is going to get a little busier. Public Works is going to start getting busier. So Terry might be onto something with taking some of those items that are maybe more complex and hitting those first, at least from a design or planning perspective, so then you can hand it off to Ryan, for example, or wherever that needs to go, to get an estimate done, a cost estimate done on those.
I guess my question would be for the rest of the committee, is it better to have one meeting a month where we kind of pick up some momentum and then have to wait till the next month? Or is this something where we would want to take maybe a couple days in a week and schedule some time and try to get a little bit more momentum? I don't know. I don't know what everybody's schedules and appetites are.
I just feel like right now, I think what I heard last night was we need to prioritize.
Right.
And then to your point, Terry, figure out what those more complex ones are.
Mm.
I don't even know, like, if you ask me right now, which one would I want to start with? I wouldn't even know how to answer that.
Mhm.
Because we had 6 initiatives with a lot of bullets. I think
Right.
our first thing is to figure out how we want to
Yeah, well, I think
bite this off.
that's a great point, Betty. And I think it goes back to all of the community sessions that we've had and the strategic planning. And I think one of the things was trail development. I mean, we heard a lot about trails and needing trails. And I think that's just listening to the community and all the information we gather, that's a pretty top priority. And like to Terry's point, that's going to take a significant amount of work to really look at what the current trails are. Ryan Goodman has in his, he knows what trail developments are coming up in the next few years in conjunction with road projects. So trails is definitely, I would say, in that top 3. And also to your point, Betty, to what are we going to go after? So I think it's whatever you feel strong about. So if you like that idea of the aqua property, and that's something that you want to really pursue and go after, then I think that's something that we, have to start working on to figure out what that model would look like. And, I know Mayor Bain had commented on that of some more research and analysis on a private-public partnership. So really, I think it's what do you guys, want to see? And I think we look at community feedback and just part of what you guys would recommend.
Well, I have some concerns that, new things keep getting introduced without old things being completed. We have Bell's Park.
Right. Exactly.
And we got a question last night about Bell's Park. Is
question.
that still something that the commission is working on? And I would, for one, would like to get a phase of Bell's Park planned and completed before we
Right.
start, expanding our horizons on other projects. We have all the projects we probably need
Right.
at this point. So let's get something done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I agree,
Agreed.
Doug. My question was going to be last night that was brought up twice about Belts Park. And I know Kathy's comment about the Rotary, and yes, they can be patient, but these high school kids that worked hard on it,
Yeah.
they're gone. I mean, and so to me, it tells our young people that, yeah, come up with an idea, we'll think about it, and maybe when you have grandchildren, it'll happen. But so I don't think we can do the whole thing. It's way too expensive. But I do think we have to, as Doug said, start phasing in something instead of starting brand new things. But that's just me. And
Right.
I joined to Kathy. I agree that there's a lot of days between a month meeting to the next month meeting. And I'm for every other month for sure. I mean, every other week for sure, because you don't lose that
Mhm.
excitement and work energy that you do if it's a month later.
I agree
Yeah,
with
Doug,
that.
I'm glad oh, go ahead. Did you say something, Betty?
I just said I agree with that. A month, if we wait a month, you lose the momentum. So if we're going to really dig into something, then we need to do a little more often until at least it gets going.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Doug, because that is definitely one of our priorities right now, I would say. Doug and I talked about it again a month ago to see how we can reduce cost and look at that phased approach so we can get something moving. But we have $500,000 currently available to spend and a pretty expensive project. So, if that's part of just the 10-year plan, and that's one of the number one priorities with the trail development, yeah, I don't want to lose sight of that, definitely. And that's ties into our first category of the park, replacing and improving existing parks and developing that structure.
Right.
Terry, go ahead.
I 100% agree with Doug. I do think we need to flush out belts, but I think we have an opportunity with belts too to look at what are the phases look like and what do they cost, and then look at not only grant opportunities and the Rotary money, but maybe that's an opportunity to exercise a sponsorship package as well. Maybe there are some others in the community who may or may not be interested in giving. And and I think when we, part of what we're doing with this stuff is prioritizing for the future as well, trying to get it in for 10 years down the road. So it's, is belts, if we looked at the work that's on the plate right now, would belts be one of our, almost like a day-to-day piece that we need to follow through on and get maintenance started on? And then is there one other one that we could start working on as part of the 10-year plan? I don't know. And that's,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's kind of where my mind is at, as it's complicated because we are working on that 10-year piece to this. And to Doug's point, let's get something done. I feel like Belts Park is on our forefront of let's get that done. And we talked about, if we look at doing just the community pavilion first, as an example,
Right.
what's that cost? We have $500,000. Can we supplement that with grant funding and start and get that part done? But I feel like that's something that we should be working on ongoing. And maybe we look at the phase 2 and 3 and implement that into the 10-year plan or the financial, the budget request for 2022. Maybe we can recommend to city council that put us down for some CIP dollars for 2022. Right now, any of our capital improvement projects, as you all know, just relies on the park dedication account. So, I agree. I think in the next 1 to 2 years at the most, we should try to get the Belts project done. And maybe that's how we tackle it, is next year we use our park dedication funds with grant opportunities. And Doug and I talked about the DNR grant, and maybe we can submit a budget request for $500,000 or whatever it is in the CIP for the following year. So just getting creative on how we can get that done in the next 1 to 2 years. And then everything else is more inserted into the financial plan.
Sounds good.
Does everyone agree and feel good about Belts being, let's keep that momentum and keep that conversation going now?
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah.
We have to do something we say we're gonna do.
Yeah, definitely.
And you picked out the part of it that the community, if you remember, almost all of them, it was high on the list, the community center with a bathroom. And I think if we focused on just what we could get done now, there's still a lot of playground activity going on around that. So it's not like it's crucial we don't have anything else there.
Yeah. And Doug, if you want to chime in, but I know that's what Doug and I talked about, is the playground equipment is still in good condition there. Be in alignment to eventually in the 10-year plan replace the equipment and improve it. But that could fit into our 10-year plan in that replacement life cycle piece of it. Right. And we started with the pavilion structure. That's where the need is the most, I think, out of that park, along with the basketball courts and tennis courts.
Tennis courts, right. Well, going back to what was said previously, I would like to do every other week. I think that's key to our getting things accomplished here. So I'm available.
I am as well.
So should we, because really quickly here, should we get some dates set for that then?
Sure.
Because I think I feel like we could wrap up business for this year on November 17th. I don't know that we would have anything coming in after that that would require commission action. That could change, but usually it's a pretty light agenda in December.
How about a Tuesday, the first Tuesday and then the third Tuesday? Are they still far enough away from Christmas and Thanksgiving that, I mean, they're all busy, but Tuesdays would probably be, to stay on the same schedule, would be probably good. I don't know where everybody else's schedule is.
That'd work for me.
Terry, you're muted.
Sorry, if you looked at the first Tuesday of November, though, do we really want to do that day? That's election day.
No,
Yeah,
December.
we aren't doing that one.
December.
Okay.
Oh, I wanna-
Yes. So right now, if we would do a quick special meeting on Tuesday, November 10th to approve the 2021 park fees. Hopefully that's quick to just pop on Zoom. And then our regular meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, November 17th. And to be honest, I don't know what we'll have on that agenda for. Do we make that mostly a workshop? I mean, it's a regular meeting. We take care of any action items and then use the 17th of November as a kickoff to the.
That would work for me.
So then we would have November 17th to start the 10-year vision, the next steps in this, and that's fine tuning. So everyone's, on the same page, fine tuning all of the work we've done and getting more specific into what we're going to present as our final package to the city council that will be put into the 10-year plan.
And the final package is the money and the it's the specifics on the initiative and what it's going to take to do it.
Yes. And then we could pencil in Tuesday, December 1st and Tuesday, December 15th. Is that too many meetings?
Tuesday, December.
Are you guys okay with?
Well, let's pencil them in and see how far we get in those first few. And
All right.
We need to scale back, we can.
yeah,
All right. As long as I'm comfortable with whatever, I just in respect of your time as commissioners and having other responsibilities. So.
because you
I'm
don't have
fine with
anything else to
First and
do.
15th.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good from here. And certainly if something comes up for someone, but I mean, if we all pencil it in, we can at least plan for it.
So December 1st and the 15th, is it 5 or 6 o'clock?
Has 5 been working for everybody?
I like 5.
Works for me. Terry,
5 is fine.
5 o'clock has been our most consistent. So if it works for everybody, I would just keep that consistency.
okay.
All right.
All right.
So I'll be busy with the fees in the next little segment here, and then we'll shift to kind of back to the 10-year planning and get some structure and organization for those meetings so they're effective.
Great.
Okay.
We move to staff updates.
All right.
Well,
Go, Terry,
Terry?
do you have something quick?
Sorry, can you guys give us, if you and Doug have kind of said that you think the pavilion is a place to start, can you give us the costs of that? You don't have to do it now, but could you send us an email or something afterwards on what that piece is going to cost? And then with the Rotary donation, what would be left there?
Yes. I can do that. Yeah, and if you guys think of anything else that you guys need from me, just let me know and I'll send it over. But I have that pretty readily available, and Doug and I just talked about that recently. So, all right, so I'll run through staff updates. I know we had a long meeting last night, and so I'll get through this here really quick. Terry, just we just wanted a quick update on park maintenance. So I'm just going to show you really quick. I think we looked at this once not too long ago, but just again, park maintenance updates for this year, a lot of the things that Public Works has done. Just wanting to note at the bottom, we did put new trees at Fenway Park. A lot of them had been pretty damaged. Repaired the shade shelter at Lakeside Memorial Park. So this right here is just to show you the footing had lifted so much. This is the one right by the swing set. So Public Works came in and fixed that because the shelter was actually tipped a little bit and just a safety hazard. So that was taken care of. And I don't know because of the weather if this last one is going to fit in yet this year. But Public Works did get a quote to sandblast and repaint the gazebo at Summerfield. So I don't know if you guys saw this there, if you played Magical Park.
Yeah.
But it's in pretty rough shape. So we had enough budget just to, you know, get something like that done. And so Public Works is working on getting that complete as well. Again, weather permitting, depending on if they'll still be able to do that or not. So any questions on maintenance updates?
Would the removing the no dogs allowed signs fall in here? Because
That's
I've
a good-
noticed that it's Cedar, Beltsville.
Yeah, we are gonna in
I mean,
January
it's silly, but
Public Works, and we're gonna develop a new like punch list of tasks. So that would go on something like that. So kind of all those tasks, any tasks that we have, so that when they get their springtime, when they're back up and running this spring, they'll have a list right out the gate of things that they need to do. I just, to be honest,
yeah, I mean, it's little,
really,
but
you know, it's important though. So, but I talked to him about scheduling time in January to come up with a punch list of those kind of maintenance items. Any other questions on this?
So they would do, I can send you, did they do the graffiti at Shield and fix the deck? Is that on there?
It's not yet, but that is, I think they got their graffiti, but we, earlier in this meeting, we talked about a potential land swap for Shields Lake property. We will be looking at doing improvements to Shields Lake Park, the dock, with the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District coming up for 2021. And that would be stuff we could do within our operating budget.
Okay.
All right, and the last update, I know we've been talking a lot about Castlewood Golf Course and just a new, you know, with the CARES funding and COVID-19, we are approved through the CARES funding to put up a new clubhouse. And I know Administrator Casey had spoke to this, that, you know, unfortunately, just given the really tight timeline that we have, we weren't able to necessarily go through the process we would like to go through. So even myself, some of this was kind of quick, but we are working on getting the clubhouse purchased and put up at Castlewood Golf Course. So I'm going to share with you just kind of this is a very basic model graph picture to kind of give you an idea. We're going to buy the building and someone then can then put it together. So here is where they will come in off the cart path and they'll enter through this door right here. So we'll probably put a sign, Castlewood Golf Course here. No windows on the back side. So they don't get, you know, that's where we're going to, if anything, the balls might hit there. And then this is just going to be a little deck area with tables and seating out here. And then I think on the inside, there's going to be like the simulators are going to be on the back wall. There's going to be 3 of them. And we're going to have a bar. I believe it's going to be right in the front here. And I think then there'll be a bathroom in the corner and just some storage kind of back on this side. So it's kind of hard to tell from here, you know, that's the best image I could get to show you. But it is going to look like a nice facility. It's going to allow for social distancing and can be used. So we have a little more room to spread out there. So right now you can get like 1 person in a little clubhouse shack. So Public Works is kind of leading this project. So let's see here. If anyone has any questions on this, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I just wanted to at least kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. Anything on that? It was just more of an update to show you what we're doing there.
No questions on my end.
All right, and that's it that I have for staff updates tonight, unless there's any other questions.
Have any others? Any commissioner updates? Glad you could make it, Terry.
Sorry I was late. I did see 3 cars in the ditch, so if you have to go out tonight, drive very carefully. It's getting icy.
Thinking about going out to visit a job site, but I think I might wait till tomorrow.
Wait till morning.
And Terry let you finish out the meeting, running the whole show. So, right.
Yeah, right in-
anything else?
I don't have anything else. Let's move on. I suppose look for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor? Hands in the air.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, Karen, are you in favor?
He dropped off.
Oh, she dropped off. Okay. All right.
All right.
You guys have a good one. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.